Hello, friend. Thanks for joining me for another book chat. Let's chat a little bit about The Postman Always Rings Twice by James M. Cain. This work of hard-boiled crime fiction was published originally in 1934. It's the third of the novels of James M. Cain that I've read and chatted here on my channel. I previously read Mildred Pierce and Double Indemnity, so I will link to those chats down in the details below. So these three, though, Mildred Pierce, Double Indemnity, and The Postman Always Rings Twice, have been all three been adapted into very famous classic movies, film noir type movies, and they're definitely worth a watch if you've never seen those. But here we're going to not talk about the movie version of The Postman Always Rings Twice. We're just going to talk about the book. Spoilers. So this is a crime fiction book, so I will be very careful not to disclose anything here that would detract from a first-time reader's experience with the book or the movie if you haven't seen the movie. So, yeah, I'll be careful there. The story here centers mainly around two main characters, Cora and Frank. So, Cora is a woman, she's married to the owner of a diner. So, as the novel opens, Frank, who's sort of this vagabond type guy who has knocked around and done odd jobs and gotten in quite a bit of trouble along the way, makes his way to this diner and he meets the owner. There is a Greek man who really wants him to come to work there. He's looking for somebody to help him out because this is kind of like a roadside diner, gas station, mechanic, and they even have a few little like shacks that they call a motel, like you can rent like little cottages, right? So he needs some help. So he wants this guy to stay, and I think a regular job is something Frank has not seen much of, in his life. So, but he mainly takes the job because he sees Cora, the wife. So Cora is, this woman. She's got a certain sort of, I guess, attraction that Frank feels for her like right away. So Cora is her kind of backstory, I guess, is she came from Des Moines. She won a beauty contest in Des Moines, she tells us eventually at one point, and after that she got a train ticket out to LA to get a screen test done, which she had, but she didn't make it in pictures, so then she started working in a hash house and that wasn't going too well, and she was having to scrape by with money and also do things for money that she didn't particularly want to do. And then this Greek guy, offered to marry her, so she thought that was her ticket out of that life. So she wound up at this diner with this Greek guy who she actually despises. So, Cora, girl, you should have stayed in Des Moines. You would have had a better life, but people don't learn, right? She thinks this Greek guy's beneath her, like racially, even. So, and this life is beneath her somehow. So she and Frank, though, instantly have this chemistry that's pretty much sizzles. And I don't want to get too involved in the plot from here because of the fact that it is a crime drama. So let's just say crimes are committed. Who leads into the crimes is part of what the fun of the book is. But yeah, there are crimes. So here's the thing about Frank though and Cora is that this kind of love built on this is kind of a dangerous, dicey proposition, right? This is something also that criminals and people like this never seem to really learn that, if you hook up with someone like this and you expect to be partners, right, in something, things can go awry because this person's history is nothing but an evidence of the fact that they're not dependable, basically, right? So, but they do, though, appear to love each other in a way, right? And so Cora actually says to Frank at one point, "We've got to be in love. If we love each other, then nothing matters." She's saying here, as long as we love each other, we can do these things and we can make our lives better. Now, Frank actually does try to convince Cora to just go on the road with him because he's has had that life. She doesn't want that. She sees that as very like also unstable, and it would just lead them right back to where they started from because she feels like he would end up doing odd jobs and she would end up back slinging hash. So she doesn't really see that as an option. The other thing is being on the road, like hitchhiking around, just doing odd jobs. This is a different this is be different for a man in 1934 versus a woman in 1934. So the risks there are not the same. But she thinks like as long as they, love each other, as long as I think that at least they are convinced that they love each other, that they can do these acts that they then set out to do. Things don't go well though. Things don't go as planned necessarily. And, Frank is a history of kind of like a con man. And so Cora actually says at one point, "Oh, yes, I fell for you because you were smart. Now I find out you're smart. Ain't that funny? Fall for a guy because he's smart and then find out he's smart." So she was attracted to him because she felt like he knew how to manipulate the world around him in order to get things that he wanted and she wanted. And but yet whenever she got involved with him, she realizes, yes, he can. But that includes her, right? So she that there's that trust issue, right? That it seems like sometimes people never learn. Like you're involved with this person who is, because you think he's so smart that he can outwit the system, and but yet it's going to work out for you somehow. If he can outwit the system, he can outwit you, chances are. Cora finds this out, right? So yeah, um there's that. So the love that they have um sort of is tied up in the title of the book. The Postman Always Rings Twice, which the title I've always kind of wondered about. I think I've always thought that the title, The Postman Always Rings Twice, is like a signal, like right, like the postman comes and if he rings twice, it's some sort of signal to maybe the woman of the house that it's the postman, a message. That is not what I've taken away from after reading this book. The postman always rings twice, I think, means that a package might not, the package, which can be a wallop, the package might not get delivered the first time, but if it doesn't, it will eventually. So the postman is going to come back again to try to deliver this package. And this is what we learn in this book. Um, Without giving away too many spoilers, is that the postman does ring twice here in that sense. There's, this is a hardboiled from 1934, this hardboiled sort of lingo that I always find so entertaining. There is a lawyer in this book eventually that's discussing things. He's walking around this room, and I just love this quote, so I jotted it down. It says, "He walked around the room a few times, falling for himself every time he passed the mirror that was in the corner." I think that's so funny, because he's in love with himself, right? So he's falling for himself every time he sees himself in the mirror. Yeah, that kind of line though is dotted throughout this kind of book, and that's one of the things I think is so fun about it. All right, I don't think I want to give away too much more about the Postman Always Rings Twice because of it's a crime book, and so it's very easy to step on or to reveal something that might be spoilerish. So I think I will leave the chat there. I did enjoy this a lot. Of course, I knew I would. I like this kind of book, and I will have some more of. I like this kind of crime fiction from this era, the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and I will have some more of it coming up before too long. So until next time, take care. Bye.